and welcome to a new episode of the Yarnflakes podcast. My name is Audrey. I am a knitwear designer from the southwest of France, and this is a podcast where I talk about all of my fiber arts related things. So, hey, hello. Thank you so much for joining me for this new episode. I hope you are all doing very well. I have a little episode for you this week with a couple of projects to share. I have a new pattern release, which is the sweater that I'm wearing, which I'm very excited about. And I also have individual release announcement for a design that was previously in a magazine. And I also want to show you my finished personal project, the Shawlography, the mystery shawl pattern from Stephen West, which I have finished and I wanted to show it to you. So that's the plan for this episode. I am going to start right away. So you can find timestamps for all the different sections of the podcast in the description down below. So if you want to skip anything to find a project in particular, feel free to look at this and jump around the video. I also put links to everything that I talk about, the patterns that I'm mentioning, the yarns that I used, as well as links to my social media and my patterns, which are for sale on 3 different platforms, which is Ravelry, Payhip, and Lovecraft, which are Ravelry, Payhip, and Lovecraft. So, yay! I'm going to start with a new design release, which is the sweater that I'm wearing, which is the Drimys sweater. So, this is moving my chair away. This is a top-down Colourwork yoke. So, you start with the ribbing. It's a twisted ribbing with a little stripe detail here and there. And you have some short rows at the back of the neck here. And then you have an all over Colourwork motif. There you go. Straight body, straight sleeves. I made mine with my usual slightly cropped length, and I made not really 3/4 length sort of sleeves, but yes, this is mine. So really nothing special to say about the constructions, rather than it's super easy to adapt and modify if you want to make the body shorter or longer, as well as the sleeves. And the pattern is graded so that you can easily have a varied amount of these. So you can have from 5 centimeter, which is 2 inches, to 20 centimeter, which is 7 3/4, I think, inches. But basically, the thing is, the sleeves are made in such a way that if you have a certain bust body measurement, you can choose from different arm circumferences, upper arm circumferences. It's not like, some yokes can be graded in very different ways, and sometimes we like to have like a lot of ease on the body, but the sleeves are fitted. Here, this is not the case. You have some leverage, so you can have a sweater that only has just a little bit of ease and a sweater that has more. I sort of have in between. I have like 10-ish centimeter, which is 4 inches ease. And this is how it looks like, what it looks like. Yes, so this was really fun to knit on. This is a very easy Colourwork motif to work from. Basically, as you can see, it's very clearly geometric. You have those vertical lines which split the motif into like 7 stitches increments. So you have very few floats to catch. Basically, there's one like here that is sort of mandatory, if that's the thing. And then basically everywhere else you don't have to catch your floats unless you want to. And as you can see, it's really easy to see where you are. It's also easily split into little bits. You have this section here And you can even split the big motif into 3 parts, which is the top one, the middle part, which you can work as in a contrast color like I did, the bottom part, and then you have this wavy thing, and then again. And so it's super fun, super intuitive. It knits up so quickly. So I think I showed it to you as I was working on it. I think I did. And the thing is, I think I knitted it in like 2 weeks or something. Now, for my work knitting, for my sample knitting, I don't force myself to have a certain deadline. Like, I don't say, I'm not expecting to knit a certain sample in X amount of time. Basically, I just let myself knit it, and it will take however long it will take. I start knitting on it, and you know, sometimes you knit quicker than other, be it because the design needs to be frogged and I need to change stuff and etc., or simply because some days I'm more distracted, I might have other things to do, or I just knit slower because that's how it is. And so I never give myself an objective in terms of time. Basically, the only moment where I will say, okay, this will be finished then, is when I'm at the very end of the knitting. For example, for a sweater, once I have the body done and one sleeve, and I know I only have one sleeve left to knit, so I know I can start deciding, okay, I'm leaving myself 1-2 days to finish the sleeve, and then I can start planning for the rest of the pattern creation process. But besides that, I don't have delays imposed on myself, basically. And so this is why it was like very surprising when I realized that I just knit this so fast, because it's so engaging and you just want to keep going, keep going, keep going. And I think, yeah, I knitted it very, very quickly, much quicker than I expected. And so it's also the sentiment that I got from my testers, which all did a fantastic job, even if there were more Colourwork beginners. Basically, I think that if you have already done some Colourwork, you're good. This causes no issue, no difficulty. It's basically just knitting in the round, so knit stitches, very few floats to catch, like I said, only 2 colors per round. So construction-wise is very simple. It's also very easy to adapt in case you have a row gauge difference. So I'm gonna talk about gauge a bit. So this can be knitted in fingering to sport weight yarns. The gauge is 24 stitches per 10 centimeter. I do want to say, please check your gauge on the project itself. And I mention this from time to time. It does not matter, basically, that you swatch. You don't have to swatch. You have to have the correct gauge on your project. So gauge in Colourwork can be tricky, especially on a big project like this. So don't knit the whole sweater before checking that your gauge is correct. And even if you've done a little swatch and you think it's fine, please do check the gauge on the project itself, because this is where it matters, essentially. The gauge is the size of your stitches. That's all it is, and it needs to be what you expect it to be on the project itself. So make a little bit of the yoke and start checking to make sure that your sweater will be the size that you want. And so that's it for stitch gauge. Like I said, most fingering weight yarns, especially if they're really plump like yarns, to sport weight will give you the right gauge. Sport weight, especially if you like something that's a little bit dense, that's great. But in terms of row gauge, which is usually very tricky to get row gauge correct, especially in Colourwork, which just adds a more difficulty. For this yoke, it's not an issue, because the pattern will tell you, in case you don't have the same row gauge as the pattern has, you can just stop the yoke before or after, and the pattern will tell you to check and how to check. Basically, as you can see, my yoke stopped here at the bottom of this symbol. And the pattern will tell you if you reach the desired measurement before, well then split before, or after, well just continue and split after. So sometimes yokes do not allow that because you want to end at a specific point. Here, that's not the case because it flows basically. Even if your row gauge is off, it's very easy to compensate for it. So that's what I mean by a very simple, trouble-free construction, meaning that even if you have never done a full-on Colourwork sweater, this should not be an issue for you. And you can also just do the yoke and then do the rest in stockinette. As you can see, you have several points in the motif where you can stop and it will look very nice. If you just want a yoke, you can stop here, you can stop here, here, and then you can do the rest in stockinette. Why not? In plain one color stockinette. So yeah, the motif looks really fun in very different colors. If you want, you can have a look at my testers project. I had a few testers for this, and some of them made the reverse contrast. For example, my yarns are fairly contrasted, but they're pretty light tone. And some versions have a dark background. Some versions have just one contrast color. Like you can use a varied or a speckled yarn or a gradient yarn, and I think that would look amazing. And you can also use a lot more colors because, as you can see, you can split the motif into a lot of different sections. So this can be a leftovers project as well, or using mini skeins if you want to make it in a lot of different colors. I think that would work really well. So yes, did I say everything? The yarn that I used is the Meadow base from Ivy Fiber Co., which is a French indie dyer. She naturally dyes on non-superwash wool, and this is her Meadow base, which is a lovely fingering weight that really blooms. It's kind of fine when you knit with it, but once you block it, I think it really works nicely. And the colors that I use are Sand as the background color, Cinder as the grey color, and Papaya as the pink coral shade. So, yay! And she gifted me this yarn a very long time ago. She just sent it to me like this, which was very, way too generous. Yes. And it's a really, really soft, non-superwash yarn. I think if you are not used to non-superwash, there's virtually no difference to the touch between some superwash wools and this one. It's really, really nice, and I think it looks good. And yeah, I think I've said everything. This is Drimys, and it is now available on Ravelry and Payhip. And yeah, I really hope you like this little color number. It can also be a Christmas jumper, if you make it like green and red. Not necessarily, whatever you want. Even if you make it like in blues and whites, it can be very wintry, or it can be, just very classic. If you do it in all black and white, like in the monochrome setting, it's probably very striking with the sharp geometrical motif. So yeah, I really hope you like it. If you do, on Ravelry there is a little discount for the release. It is 15% off with the code Drimys until this Sunday, and I will write down everything in the description down below for you to check it out in case you'd like to have a look at it and get some color inspo if needed for any of your projects that you would like to make. Hey, I'm going to start to stop talking in. Okay. I need to start making elongated sentences and not hashing them down like this. But that's it for Drimys. And I'm going to continue with another little announcement regarding my own designs, which is that I have published a pattern that was published in the Pom Pom Mag number 34, which was published last year in autumn. And it is now available as a single pattern, and that's the Atlantica sweater, which is this one. So this is a drop shoulder sweater that is knitted bottom up with a lot of lace on the body and reverse stockinette sleeve. The lace is like a mix of twisted stitches and bubbles, and you can see here the blue marled version. And yeah, this is now available as a single download on Ravelry and Payhip and Lovecrafts. So yeah, in case you liked the sweater but didn't get the magazine, it is now possible. I know some French-speaking people look at the podcasts in English, so the pattern, I have also translated it in French for this occasion, because it was only available in English in the magazine, obviously. So now it's there in both languages. I also want to say that if you have the magazine and you want the digital version of the single pattern, you can just ask me, just send me a message on Ravelry or Instagram. And I will, we will make sure that I can send it to you, so you can have the digital copy of the individual pattern if you want it, rather than the magazine. Although Pom Pom has always has a digital issue as well, but just in case you would like the PDF version that I made, because it has the written instructions at the same time, so you can have that if you'd prefer to work from that. Just ask me and I will send it to you, of course. You don't need to repurchase it if you already have the magazine. That's like normal to me. But yeah, that's it for all the promotion things. Like a lot of people have knitted Atlantica, so you can have a lot of ideas for which yarn to use. The original sample is knitted using 2 strands of lace weight yarn together, which was iron-bound by Istex Lopi. And it makes a sport weight gauge, so you can use like sport weight or plump fingering weight if you don't want to use 2 strands of yarns together. And yes, so a lot of people have made it, which I'm super grateful for. So you can sort of have different people's opinions on how difficult it is. I don't think it's a difficult lace, but it can be a bit unsettling at first how it's presented. The pattern does have written instructions, like I said, so in case you prefer to read your lace from that rather than a chart, it has both. And yeah, it just takes, in my opinion, it's not necessarily difficult, but it does take a bit of time. And if you really like the lace motif but you're not sure and you would prefer to try it first, in a couple of weeks at the beginning of December, I will release a sock pattern with the same lace motif. So you can have a little taste of it if you prefer to not do it on the sweater completely, or if you just want to make sure that you to get comfortable basically with the lace motif, or if you want both. You know, I had some testers for this sock design who made the Atlantica sweater and they just wanted the matchy socks. So this will be here at the beginning of December. But enough about my own designs, because I have a finished personal project that I wanted to show you, which is the Charlography shawl, which is the mystery knit along from Stephen West. It was this year's mystery shawl, and it's like the mystery has finished at the end of October, and Stephen West has since then shown the pattern in its entirety, so I don't think I'm spoiling anyone because like I'm late to the party, but I have finished my shawl and I wanted to show it to you. Am I showing you the wrong side? Yes, I am. Yeah, here's the wrong side in case you wondered. But ta-da! So this is the beast. So it is a semicircular shape, as you can see, which is quite elongated on the sides actually. So usually half circles I don't find really convenient to wear, but this one, with my gauge and the drape of my yarn and the fact that there are short row sections that elongated the sides, I think it's really actually convenient to wear. But yeah, this is how it looks. So when I first showed you the beginning of my project, I think I had knitted only the first clue. And basically this was my first Stephen West pattern. I never knitted a pattern from Stephen West before. Most of the times the way he arranges colors is not necessarily my favorite thing, because he really makes like big color blocky effect with the different colors, which really makes them pop and really brings them forward, and they look really nice. But it's not my favorite way of mixing colors. And so I am quite surprised, and I feel very lucky that I chose to knit this design as a mystery, so I didn't know. Basically, I chose to knit it because I really liked how that first clue looked. And the rest of it happens to actually be the way I like to mix colors. It's like lots of little... It's like a more messy mix, right? It's lots of little slip stitches, motifs. Like they're all more mixed together in smaller bits, which is how I prefer to mix my colors, and it just works really, really well, I think. And so yeah, it's just lucky that I chose to knit this, which was quite risky because it was a mystery, and it actually happens to be probably my favorite looking design by Stephen West, so lucky me. And yes, so I had knitted the first bit here when I first showed you. So you basically start with this, with a little bit of eyelets, and then this was the short row stripe thing. It's like stockinette and reverse stockinette stripes in short rows, making the different colors, which was a bit long. It's just no, it wasn't long. It's just that it was just going back and forth, and I realized I don't really like turning my knitting all the time, but it was very, very mindless and very easy. So as soon as I started knitting it while watching TV or reading a book, it just was much more enjoyable. And then I really loved this whole bit. From here to here is like the type of knitting that I love so much, right? It's just slip stitches, little motifs like this that are easy to do, but that keep you a little bit more engaged. And I loved all of this. This slip stitch motif here in stripes, which is really fun. Even like the I-cord loops. Okay, when you're doing them, they look so weird, right? It's like little worms. Actually, I think when you look at the overall shawl, it doesn't look that weird. It's just like connecting the two parts with a bit of see-throughness to it. Hello. And so I think it works really well. And it was rather fun to work as well. It was not too tedious at all. I was actually surprised because when I started seeing them in the pictures of the first clue, I thought, oh, this is going to maybe not be so fun to knit as well, and it will be more of a mindless knit where I will but where I will enjoy it more if I'm actually doing it as a brainless part while watching something else. But it was actually rather fun. Then you have a motif which I really liked, which was the slipped stitch with like a garter ridge thing. Really liked this. Then you had the little welts, which was super fun to work. Basically, you just knitted a bunch of stockinette, you folded them, and then you cinched them at a certain point, and it makes this little welts, which I thought are really fun and look good. Then another slip stitch motif, which I really like, with these little triangles. And you have the bubbles, and I did make the bubbles per instructions. So they're basically I-cords. You make a little I-cord. I did modify at the end though. Basically, the pattern instructs you to make the bubble, so it's like an I-cord, and then you continue the row. What I did is at the end of the bubble, I did like I usually do for my own bubbles. I attached them to the wrong side. This way the bubble was already folded on itself, because if not, they didn't come out as well. So they're not the most regular looking bubbles, but I still think they look really fun with a little bit of texture. And I'm not a perfectionist, if anything. I really don't mind when things look a bit wonky, on the contrary. Then you have the return of the short rows, our friends. And this was actually better because it's like on a wider thing, so you don't have to turn your knitting so often. And this is like stripes, but the stripes of stockinette and reverse stockinette in 2 colors, but the color changed is made with the purl facing the right side. So basically you have the little color jog every time you change color. And I absolutely love that effect when it's intentional. I think it looks brilliant the way the color jog looks on the purl row. I've seen a lot of commercial ready-to-wear sweaters lately that uses this, like it's a full-on sweater with lots of color stripes, but it's reverse stockinette, so you can see the color jogs and the blips. I really like how it looks. I absolutely love using this, and I think it looks really nice. Then we had the choice between brioche and I think it was like a eyelets thing. I don't mind brioche. I actually like doing it, even if it's basic and a bit mindless. But so I choose to make the brioche, even if it's like 2 color flat, so you had a lot of purling, but that's fine. And then you have this crisscrossing thing here, which I'm seeing a lot. I'm seeing a lot of designers use this lately. I think it looks fun. You just make elongated stitches and then you basically like twist them like this, and yeah, they sort of make this really openness. And then the border. I know a lot of people didn't like the border. I actually liked it. I understand why people wouldn't, because it's maybe it's like large stripes compared to the tiny motifs on the overall shawl. But I actually think it looks nice. It's also probably because lately I'm really into borders like this that are knitted sideways. Yeah, basically you just advance here like so, and then you knit in a perpendicular way, and every time you go here you sort of bind off a stitch of the shawl and you just go that way, making garter stripes in all of your colors. And I actually like it, but you can also make a smaller thing by just making a bind off here, a simple icon bind off here. And I've seen a lot of people who modified this, and there's lots of really nice version, including one which I wish I had kept the Instagram handle. It looks absolutely stunning. Maybe if we look at the hashtags shawlography or worst knits Kyle, maybe we can find them. But it was a black and gold shawl, and instead of the border they made like a plaid slip stitch motif, and then they added a long fringed, and maybe they were wearing it at at some sort of a party or something, because in the picture the knitter was wearing like a stunning dress that was matching the shawl in colors. Absolutely stunning version, loved it. But yeah, so there was a lot of creative modifications for the border, and I really liked seeing them. But I like the original one. You know, I'm a good student. I'm not. I was not a very loved student because I wasn't working basically and still getting the best grades. So very annoying student I was. But in terms of knitting, I like to follow instructions. I just, I will change like little things, like I don't like making provisional cast-ons for necklines, this sort of stuff, but usually I'm pretty much, if I'm knitting from another designers, I'm just doing their thing. I kind of like that. So yeah, and I'm very happy with the result. I think it looks a bit more contrasty and lots of colors compared to what I would usually do for myself, but I think it still looks kind of nice. So my colors were, and okay, so that's the one thing that I'm not so sure about, because it was instructed that color A should be your favorite, and it's actually the one that like you see less. It's this one, see? So you see it here. Then you see it a bit in the sections where all colors that mixed. And then it's as well here, but it's sort of hidden by the garter ridges of the other color. And then it's the bubble, and then it's the background of the brioche. And so I don't know why my favorite color is the one that I see less. I don't know. I think it's okay, because obviously I picked colors that I liked, all of them anyway. But I think that the two colors that are most visible are actually color B, which is my dark gray here, and color D, which is my golden yellow. But yeah, that's just one thing. And so my color A was Feather and Fin yarn, which is a German dyer. This was a camel merino base in color auburn. This was color B. This was the Lucifer colorway on the Demon Yak base, which is a merino yak and silk base, from the Woolly Skein, which is a French indie dyer. Color C, which I was wrong last time. Basically, when I presented to you the beginning of the show, I said that this was knitting for olive merino. It's not. I actually wanted to use this, but then I found this, and I thought I would keep the knitting for olive because I like to mix it with other knitting for olive yarns to colors to make Colourwork project. And this is actually Eden Cottage Yarns Mealburn 4-ply, which is their BFL silk color, which is a bit finer and looser than the rest of my colors, but I don't mind so much. Color D was a sportwear yarn, which is Opus by Warcott Yarns in the Goldenrod colorway. This is, I believe, Falkland and Alpaca. Hello, little bird. And they're fighting. And yeah. And color E was another merino yaxle base, this one here, from Arcoiris Yarns, which is another French indie dyer, in the Antoinette colorway, which is like this violet-y thing. Yeah, I really like how they all played together. I think it's a very nice drapey shawl. Like I said, the shape is more wearable than I thought for a half circular shawl, because it is not too deep and rather elongated, as you can see. If I just put it like this, it works. And so I'm quite happy with the result. It was quite fun to knit, and yeah, I find out that I really like this color mix here. I think that looks really cool. And yes, I think that's it. That's all I had to say about the project. I would like to take some pictures eventually, but it's been like, it's literally been night for a week. Like, there's no daylight, there's no sun, no anything. And I need to take pictures, pattern pictures as well, for designs that I need to go into testing, and I would like to take pictures of this beauty as well. So if the day would like to come at some point, that would be lovely. So yeah, that's that's all I had to say, I believe, for this episode. I will come back in a couple of weeks with another one. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I wish you a very happy rest of the day and evening, and I will see you next time. Bye!